that airs Wednesdays at 10 a.m. right here on KZCC 106.1 and 104.5 FM. Make sure to tune in and keep it on for Community Radio's version of a slow motion train wreck. You will hear our take on some of the world's oddest news, our mind droppings, and general banter from your favorite radio friends, me and Dick Schisler. We are also available on all of your favorite podcasting platforms.
Don't miss Lone Star Community Radio on TV and YouTube. Our talk show and music shows are featured on Our City TV, Suddenlink Channel 12, and have their own YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to keep up with posted shows and comment on them below the video.
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show, with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776.
Listen in Mondays at noon to hear Conroe news from local nonprofits, businesses, upcoming events, Conroe Park events, news stories, and information that matters to you with your host, Margie Taylor of Taylorized PR. For more information about being a guest, visit irlonestar.com/Conroe Culture.
Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZWLP Conroe and 106.1 KZCCLP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Welcome to Veterans Air, the Veterans Hour. I am your host, Douglas B. As always, you can listen to us live the first Tuesday of every month here on your Lone Star Community Radio station. Before we get started, we're going to do I guess I have to tell you where you can listen. You can listen to us on Conroe's FM 106.1 and 104.5, Facebook Live, YouTube, Our City TV, and wherever you get your fine podcasts. As always, a little housekeeping before we get started. You can contact Veterans Air at our website, www.veteransair.us. You can leave us a message, send us an email, or better yet, you can text us in the studio on our Google phone, 936-344-3083. Today, I decided, since the stars aligned and I was able to get my judge advocate from the VFW 4709 and the lawyer for the Hurd law firm in here to talk about the Pact Act. Now, I know that most of you think you know what the Pact Act is, but I've been getting a lot of questions, a lot of misinformation out there on the Pact Act, and how does this affect you personally, your VA benefits, and or more importantly, how it's going to affect you or may affect you in the future. So in the studio with me, I have Brandon Francis. Brandon, welcome to the show. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks for having me. So like you said, my name's Brandon Francis. I'm an attorney at the Hurd law firm in Houston, Texas. I'm an Iraq war veteran. And I'm the judge advocate for the post here in Conroe, Texas, Montgomery County Post 4709. And right now we are just doing intake and trying to get in touch with as many veterans as possible that may qualify under the Camp Lejeune Justice Act, which is a portion of the Pact Act, like you mentioned.
So, In a nutshell, what is the Pact Act?
So the Pact Act was signed in August of 2022 and essentially made a substantial amount of conditions. I just forgot the word.
Presumptive.
Presumptive, that was the word. They're presumptive conditions. So what that means is if you have the specific condition and you were in a specific theater of war or combat, what have you, during a specific time, that's all that the VA needs to get you qualified for the conditions, the presumptive conditions. You don't have to go back and, prove your claim like you normally would to the VA. It's presumptive. So if you have the condition, you were there in theater during the specific time, it's just essentially you automatically qualify for that condition as service connected and such.
Well, let me tell a little story about the Pact Act and presumptive conditions. And there is a slew, that is a word. There is a slew of presumptive conditions. And prior to the Pact Act, you would have to prove, the burden of proof is on you, veteran, to prove that your condition is because of toxins, burn pits, whatnot. Now, those of us over in the sandbox, we know all about burn pits and being downwind and actually having to burn some of that stuff. Well, if you developed a condition, let's say a cancer, and you wanted the VA to give you a service-connected disability and to treat, more importantly, this particular cancer, you would have to prove that the cancer came from your service in the sandbox during burn pits and yada, yada. That was almost impossible for the average guy to get done. Almost impossible. So you'd come through with some sort of skin cancer or respiratory condition, and it's been years since you were over there. Years. Well, the VA is going to turn around and go, well, prove that you got it there. And you couldn't do that, or it was next to impossible to do that. Then lobbying and legislation and the lobbyist for the legislation, which, by the way, your local VFW 4709 and American Legion Post 411 were instrumental in lobbying for this, got passed. And now it says, if you were there and you develop this condition or you have this condition, we are going to assume, the VA assumes, that it was caused by the toxins you were exposed to. And this is a big thing. Brother Johnny, y'all know him. I talk about him all the time. He's been on the show a couple of times. This poor man got cancer, the esophagus. Lost most of his jaw, all of his teeth, half of his tongue, half of his esophagus. Prior to the Pact Act, he was paying for that treatment out of pocket. He was paying for it. Along comes the Pact Act, and the VA says, oops, sorry, okay, yeah, we're going to treat it all now. That's a big thing.
It's huge. It's huge. And one thing I would just mention on that from my own experience is just to make sure you're speaking with your physician and they're putting the specific diagnoses in your medical record, because that's really the only missing point that's not in your records already. They know where you were and at what time, but you need that specific diagnosis listed in your records or they're just going to deny it again.
And this is my opinion. This is my opinion, Brandon. And I've talked about this before on the show. I have a VA physician, and then I have a civilian physician that I pay for. And I'm going to tell you how we do that later on in the show with one of our sponsors. I ensure that my civilian doctor and my VA doctor, they exchange records and they talk. And you can do that too. It's a simple form to fill out for your civilian doctor.
But you have to do it.
But you have to,
because they will not share unless you make them.
Because they can't.
That's right.
Under law, your VA doctor can't talk to your civilian doctor about what's going on with you, and vice versa. Now, for me personally, I find it best to allow the VA to do whatever diagnosis they come across, whatever testing they want to do, whatever medicines up to a point that they want to administer. But as soon as they do so, I run back to my civilian doctor and go, this is what the VA found. Now, my family, we are the poster children for cancer. We are. So I'm very concerned about that I will develop cancer. And that I may develop one of these cancers that are associated, presumptive, with the burn pits. So every year I go to my VA doctor and I say, I want you to run a full cancer panel. And he does, because I asked for it. And then I run back to my civilian doctor and I ask her to do the same thing, and she does, because I asked for it. And there's the key, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. You have to ask for it. If you don't educate yourself on this Pact Act, it not only is going to be a detriment to yourself, but also to your survivors for when you die.
That is correct.
Am I overstating that?
No, not at all. What I'm going to speak about a little more specific is the Camp Lejeune Justice Act. But circling back to your survivors and your family, I say that's what actually got me off of my butt to file my disability claim was my family. You know, a lot of guys out there don't think they need it, or they don't qualify, or if they're to get disability, it takes it out of the hands of another veteran, and that's absolutely not true. But with you're helping your family out, because if you're listed as receiving disability or even at 0%, it's service connected, and you pass away, if that illness is listed on your death certificate, your family can file for, I believe it's called DIC, it's Dependent Indemnity Compensation, and they can receive compensation long after you're passed away.
Absolutely. We have a veteran here that's part of my Blue Ribbon Dysfunctional Veteran Panel that I convene when we have, big things we need to talk about. One of those veterans is total and permanent. And when they received their total and permanent, they said, I can't accept this. It's like, why can't you accept it? Well, I'm taking away from another veteran. No, you're not. But if you feel that way, if you truly do feel that way, and we all know veterans out there that are scamming the system, we know this. But if you feel that way and you're collecting a disability, there is nothing anywhere that says you can't take that disability or a portion thereof and donate it to a worthy cause. Yes, you can.
It's your money after that.
That's right. It's your money after that. And to speak to the DIC, just had another veteran, the shingding that we had Saturday at the Post. Okay. Just had another veteran. I said, you have to marry this woman. Well, why do I have to marry this woman? Well, you've been with her for 20 years, first off. And second, you're concerned that your time here on earth is passing away.
Right.
And I am telling you that you can prepare her and take care of her after your death, but you got to marry the woman.
Right.
Thus the shindig that we had, on Saturday.
Legal connection.
Circling back to, I want to talk about Camp Lejeune for a second. Then we'll delve a little bit more into that. Camp Lejeune stands on its own, but it is part of the Pact Act, is it not?
It is a portion of the Pact Act. It was signed in August of 2022, just like the Pact Act. However, the Pact Act is ongoing. That's ongoing. There's no statute of limitations for that I know of at this moment. However, a portion of the Pact Act was called the Camp Lejeune Justice Act. And what that did is it gave those who resided, worked, or otherwise exposed, and that was including in utero exposure, to the groundwater at Camp Lejeune for not less than 30 days. They had to live there or be in utero from August 1, 1953 to December 31st, 1987, and diagnosed with a cancer, serious illness, or a number of other health conditions, including like neurological, kidney, and liver disease. Miscarriages are connected, infertility, and birth defects and such for those that were in utero or born there. And it doesn't, a little exclusion here, not exclusion, just caveat. You don't have to have one of the Pact Act's presumptive illnesses to qualify for the Camp Lejeune Justice Act. The Camp Lejeune Justice Act is more expansive, and it connects a lot more illnesses to the toxic water that the people that were there were exposed to.
We see on our TV every day a slew of law firms pushing the Camp Lejeune that join our class action suit. What's all that about? I
have other comments on that, but what that is because in August of 2022, like I said, the Camp Lejeune Justice Act was created, and that gave 2 years. So why I'm here today is kind of a call to action. The statute of limitations on the Camp Lejeune Justice Act ends August 10th of this year, 2024.
Wait. I want to say that again. August 10th, 2024. If you have lived or worked at Camp Lejeune for 30 days or more, you must file or join one of these class action suits by August of this year. Time is running out.
Signed up by August, so we'd love to be speaking with you sooner rather than later.
Say that again?
August 10th is when we actually have to file your claim with Navy JAG. So I would prefer to be talking to you tomorrow or at least mid-July, so we have time to get all your paperwork and everything that is required to make that filing by August 10th. So August 10th is the last day, but I really want to talk to you tomorrow, today, as soon as possible.
So Camp Lejeune, as everybody knows, is for the Marines. But it is totally possible that a Navy guy, an Air Force guy, an Army guy may have gone there TDY for 30 days.
Absolutely.
Are they covered under that?
They absolutely are. It's anybody that was exposed to the toxic water between 53 and 1987 for 30 days or more. Those 30 days do not have to be consecutive. For instance, I know a lot of training goes on. When I was at Fort Bragg, we would go and train water amphibious stuff at Camp Lejeune. Now, I don't think I was there. I was definitely not there during the time, but I wasn't there for 30 days. But if we can prove you went there for 2 weeks, every year for 3 years, that counts. We just need to prove it.
Guard guys.
That's right. We just got to have the paperwork to prove it. Or pictures. If you vacation there, for instance, I know a lot of people.
Why would anyone vacation at Camp Lejeune?
Well, there's family that lives at Cherry Point and Camp Lejeune. Sometimes when you're in the military, the schedule doesn't always allow you to leave because you're on call, but other family could come visit you.
I would hang out at Cherry Point for a weekend or so. That's not bad.
I mean, the beach isn't too far away, so it must be pretty nice.
So if I'm a listener sitting at home and I'm going, my light bulb just came on, I got to get off my butt and do something. How do I get hold of you?
So the best way to do is just to call us at our office, 713-955-3699, or you can go to our website at HERD, that's HERD, lawfirm.com. We have an intake page just for Camp Lejeune. I just prefer if you'd call me, or you can email me at Brandon, BRANDON, .Francis, FRANCIS, at HERD, HERD, lawfirm.com.
And I will tell you, he will call you back, and he does answer his email.
Absolutely.
So the Camp Lejeune Justice Act, while it is part of the Pact Act, is something totally different, because with the Camp Lejeune Justice Act, you're actually suing the Department of the Navy.
Actually, I think the named defendant is the United States of America. Just to keep that, I know a lot of Marines are very proud and part
once
of that.
You're a Marine, you're a Marine.
Absolutely. But the Marine Corps is not the named defendant. So what this did is to file a suit in federal court, Congress has to provide a cause of action. And that's what this Camp Lejeune Justice Act did. It provided a cause of action for those affected by the toxic water to file a civilian lawsuit in the federal court in North Carolina. It's not a class action. Each individual claimant will have their own claim. And what happens is step one, you file with Navy JAG. I think they're doing that to kind of just keep numbers and such. But they have 6 months to accept or deny your claim. As far as I've heard, they're not doing anything with them. So at that 6 month, it's automatically assumed it was declined, and that's what gives us the authority to file suit in North Carolina.
That's huge. I've never heard of something like this happening ever before.
It's the first litigation of its kind, absolutely. And it's projected to be the biggest litigation ever out there, bigger than the 3M, which 3M just topped
they're
the
billions
list,
of
and
dollars.
now it's going to be. And speaking of dollars, there's already been funds set aside by Congress to pay for these claims. I believe last I heard it was $6.7 billion. So that's another thing. I've had a lot of pushback from Marines. It will not be taking away from future Marines or the Marines currently or the Marine Corps at all. It's totally outside the Marine Corps. Named defendant is United States of America, and Congress has already earmarked funds to pay for these claims. So if you qualify, there's no reason not to sign up and see what we can do.
Well, you know as well as I do, once a Marine, always a Marine.
Sure.
I mean, they are faithful to the Corps until the day they die.
Love it.
I mean, that's part and parcel of being a Marine. And I poke fun at the Marines, but there are Marines in my family. They're the brain dead guys that joined up. Yeah, y'all in New Jersey, so I'm not afraid of you. Can you file for the Lejeune Justice Act and also qualify under the Pact Act?
Absolutely. So you can double dip in this regard. The VA has put out a press release that anything. Well, here we'll start with this. I've got a lot of pushback that people are at 100%, and they don't want to mess with that. We all know what it took to get there.
Yep.
They don't want to mess with it. And they're worried that just a simple monetary claim over here in the courts could affect their disability compensation going forward. So we've reached out. The BMBF, the law firm we're working with, has gotten guidance, and the VA has put out a press release that nothing on your VA disability side will be affected by any judgment from Camp Lejeune Justice Act. The only caveat with that is your judgment from the Camp Lejeune Justice Act could be offset by the funds that you have already received under your disability. However, it won't work vice versa. So you will always maintain your medical care for your disability conditions. Your monthly compensation payments will not change, nothing like that. But I still believe you should still sign up for the Camp Lejeune Justice Act, because some of the projected sums on these judgments could change people's lives. It's not like chump change, like $50 or $100. They're projecting big judgments.
And I've said this on the show before, and I will say it 1,000 times more. You all keep in mind, remember, VA medical is separate from VA disability, which is separate from VA educational and all the other ones. They're all the department of the VA, but they don't talk to each other. They do not. So just merely by filing for the Camp Lejeune Act has nothing to do with what medical care that you currently have or could possibly receive. Here's the thing. There are different presumptive conditions for the Pact Act than there are for the Camp Lejeune Justice Act.
That's correct.
You may not qualify for a presumptive condition today under the Pact Act, but you do under Camp Lejeune because you were there. You don't know what's going to happen to you 20 years later. Trust me, I was not this broke dick. Can I say that on the air? I was not this broke dick. Yeah, the FCC is going to go shut us down any day. I was not like this when I got out of the military. No. When I got out, I'm airborne ranger, gun-ho, I'm 10 foot high and bulletproof. I didn't wake up one morning and be like this. No, this happened over the years. I degraded further and further and further and further until you see the man I am today.
What's crazy is statistics are showing most veterans don't touch the VA system until a decade out of the military. And that's crazy. That's right to the T the year I kind of sought it out, but I didn't realize how prevalent it was.
I fight continuously, Brendan. I fight with guys and women that get out and don't file with the VA. And you only have 5 years. People, pay attention. You only have 5 years to file with the VA. That's not submitting a claim for disability. That's just registering with the VA. Say, hi, I'm here. Because if you don't, then you're me. And for me to get back into the VA system, actually took a congressman to get involved and say, you will see him.
It's a bureaucratic system for sure.
And I'm thankful to Senator Ortiz. He is passed, but he did a lot of work on my behalf to make sure I was able to get back into the VA system, just to be seen. Disability was something totally else. That was it. And the VA, and I say this, you see my T-shirt, the VA giving soldiers another chance to die for their country since 1931. The VA is a boon, and it's a bust. It can be the greatest thing that's ever happened to you, or it could be the worst. But you are in control of whether it's the best or the worst, simply by being educated on what your benefits are, not entitlements. These are your benefits. You signed a contract with the United States government and said, I'm going to do this, and you can do whatever you want to me, but you have to fix whatever you break. That's your contract. Allow them to fix whatever is broken for you.
But you have to be your own advocate.
You have to be your own advocate. But when it comes to the Pact Act and the Camp Lejeune Justice Act, we don't have to be our own advocate. We have you.
Well, thank you.
Do you happen to have a list of the presumptives? Because I didn't bring it with me.
I did not bring the presumptives under the Pact Act. I do have a list of conditions under the Camp Lejeune Justice Act that that you could qualify for, but it's, like I said, it's way more expansive than just the.
Well, there's a link above or below, or to the side, wherever you happen to be watching this, and it has the link to the Pact Act and all the presumptives. Because I checked this morning. Did you know that they're adding things to this presumptive list?
I've heard about that, but I haven't seen that they're adding more lately. No.
Yeah, since 22, when it came into effect, they've added 12 more presumptive conditions.
That's news to me.
I counted. And it's expanding every single day.
I think it's just as the science is able to connect it. And I think that's what's great about this Camp Lejeune Justice Act is because you're getting a lot of litigation and law firms involved, and they're bringing their big-time experts in to support it, and that science is being shared with the VA to connect those illnesses.
Now, you said before that this is not a class action suit, but I see law firms on TV that say that it is. So what's the real story?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, and I've been educated and read, that was kind of part of where Congress could have been a little bit more clear in the legislation, is it's not a class action and it is not a MDL, which is considered a multi-district litigation, such as what 3M was. That's, you have so many lawsuits from across the United States. for judicial economy and such, they consolidate them to one court to handle all of it, rather than a defendant having to defend lawsuits in every little district court across the United States. So they consolidate it. But typically there's verbiage that creates it as an MDL. This one is not. All lawsuits have to be filed, I believe it's the Eastern District of North Carolina. And there's only 4 judges and federal judges there to handle all these lawsuits. That's kind of the bottleneck, from what I understand, is they're trying to figure out how to handle this many lawsuits without being in kind of the MDL umbrella, which they're going to have to find something or develop something to treat it as an MDL. But the legislation that came out in 2022, it was not a class action lawsuit. You don't have to have a representative or anything like that. Your case is your case. It's an individual case-by-case basis.
Well, I get this question. So I was at Camp Lejeune. I was training, and I was there during the time frame. But I did not deploy overseas to the sandbox.
Okay.
Can I still do the Camp Lejeune even though I didn't deploy?
Yes. The qualifications for the Pact Act and Camp Lejeune Justice Act do overlap in some areas, but they're completely separate. You don't have to be in a theater of war or anything like that. Just like the Pact Act kind of delineates if you were in a theater war between this such and such time, that's what the Camp Lejeune Justice Act is saying. It's saying if you were at Camp Lejeune between 53 and 87 for 30 days or more, and you have one of these qualifying conditions, you qualify for compensation under the Camp Lejeune Justice Act.
So, to be clear, guys out there and ladies, if you were at Camp Lejeune for 30 days or more from 53 to 87, you can still be part of this Camp Lejeune Justice Act. It's not contingent on you having deployed to the Gulf War or Gulf Wars.
That area, yeah.
And
And
I'm at 1:30, right? I need to take a break. Yeah, Dick's saying, yeah, you can take a break.
Can I throw in one more thing, Doug,
One more
before we
thing.
go to break? So you're asking about all these different radio shows and television shows, and they're great. That's fine. If you go with any law firm, just get with a law firm. However, with going with us and the Hurd Law Firm, we have already capped our contingency fees at 25%, where a lot of those law firms are running 33 and a third, 40, and I've heard some up in the New England, Northeast area as much as 50%. So we're capping our fees at 25%.
I was gonna bring that up. How much does this cost? But I gotta do some shout outs and whatnot, because this show was made possible by the generous donations of East Meets West Productions, who's been helping veterans start and fund their businesses for over 30 years. And of course, we can't forget United Healthcare and my personal agent, Andrea Corpening. Andrea, I hope I said that correctly. She is absolutely wonderful, and we got a 30-second spot for her, I believe. So we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back, and we're going to continue our education on Camp Lejeune and the Pact Act. So I want to get more into the Pact Act, a little bit more depth, and what it's going to do for us veterans that may have been exposed. You're listening to Veterans Air, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Medicare can be confusing, but it doesn't have to be. My name is Andrea Corpening, and I am an agent authorized to offer AARP Medicare plans from United Healthcare Insurance Company. I can guide my clients through understanding Medicare coverage options and help them discover what may make AARP Medicare plans from United Healthcare a great choice. I can be reached at 281 281-773-6239. That's Andrea Corpening at 281-773-6239. I can help those find a plan with confidence.
Did you know there are more than 790 abused and neglected children currently in foster care in Montgomery County? Will you help make a difference? I'm Allie Stevens with Casa Child Advocates of Montgomery County. We train and support volunteers to be the voice of children in the foster care system. Kids removed from their home because of abuse and neglect, and we need volunteers just like you to advocate for these children. To learn more about becoming an advocate, please visit CasaSpeaksForKids.com. That's CasaSpeaksForKids.com.
Welcome back to Veterans Air, the Veterans Hour, your source for news, talk, and uncensored commentary. Hey, Dick, do you have that graphic that I dropped in Google Drive? I'm going to give a shout out to some people here. So, as you all know, I am forever in a battle of getting somebody to come mow my lawns. They show up once and then they don't show up again. It's like, why are you making it hard for me to give you money? So I put out there on Facebook again, please, somebody, send me a good company that's going to actually come and do the job. Well, I put that out 3 or 4 Saturdays ago. And within 10 minutes, I had a guy contact me. He said, I'm in town. I could be there in 10 minutes. And I went, okay. He shows up, and I said, I will give you $50 to mow and weed back my lawn, $60 if you take away the clippings. And he said, done. And they show up every 2 weeks without me having to call them. They just show up. And during the last storm, I had limbs down all over the place and limbs down on my brand new $10,000 roof, and I was very concerned about it. So I called Renee and I said, hey, can you come clean up my yard before you cut it? He said, yep, be there tomorrow. Him and Lisa, his business partner, came and cleaned me up, sawed all the branches that needed to be sawed up and carted away. And I am so impressed with their work that I am giving them a shout out on my radio. They are Essence Landscaping, and it's Renee and Lisa. And there should be a graphic up on your screen of how to contact them. I want you to give them a call. I want you to tell them that Douglas B from Veterans Air sent you over there. And they will treat you with the same respect and work ethic as they've treated me. These guys are really great. They're super fast, super efficient, and they're just starting up. So give them a call, see what they can do for you. Brandon, thank you for waiting for me. I have to give shout-outs to local businesses.
It's hard to find good help sometimes.
It is hard to find good help. Isn't that what Marcy says?
All the time.
Before we went on break, we were talking about the cap.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody works for free.
That's correct.
And depending who you choose, it could be very expensive for what you might receive for your package from the Camp Lejeune Act.
Sure.
You're saying that the Hurd Law Firm caps it at 25%.
Now, that's the contingency fee. That is the attorney's fees. Every law firm across the nation is going to have case expenses, whether we have to hire experts to make the causation or what have you. That's not going to change. But the attorney's fees itself, we're capping at 25%, where they're normally upwards of 33 1/3 plus.
Let's talk about this for just a second. I'm a veteran,
Okay.
and I come to you, and I show you that I was in Camp Lejeune during this time frame. And I show you medical records that I have this diagnosis. What more do I need to do to get you on the case, or at that point, are you taking care of that?
So the biggest thing is once you make contact with me, that's really what I would say is on their to-do list. Just get in contact with me. You don't have to have all your medical records gathered and right in front of you, ready to fax me or email me. Maybe the DD-214, just so I can tell what dates and times you were there. But I just need a phone call from the veteran or his family members saying, hey, we think we qualify. And, I'm going to pick up the phone. We'll do a quick interview to see if you do. If you do, I'm going to put you right into our intake system and our litigation counsel, BMBF, which is Baird, Mandalis, Brockstedt, and Federico. They're groundwater contamination experts. So we have them as litigation counsel, and they will handle the records collection and stuff from there and get you teed up to submit your claim to Navy Jack. Any issues, I'm your local counsel. Just call me. You don't have to mess with a big phone tree or anything like that. Just call the Hurd Law Firm. It's a small office, just me and Mr. Hurd and 3 staff members. So we're going to answer the phone, and we'll take care of you the best we know how.
And what's your number again?
713-955-3699.
So, do I need to hire you if I'm thinking about doing something under the Pact Act? Not Camp Lejeune, but under the Pact Act.
Well, this kind of brings open what the VA has been having a lot of problems with, the claim sharks going after the VA. We do not handle at Hurd Law Firm or BMBF handle disability claims. You should not, it's actually illegal to be charged a fee to file your disability claims initially.
Oh my God. Please say that again.
It is illegal for people to charge. It should be absolutely free to the veteran or their family to file their initial claim for disability. An attorney may be able to come in after you receive a decision and appeal it, but do not pay. It should be free to file your initial disability compensation claim.
What have I been telling you? What have I been telling you for the past 7 years on this show? Now you have a lawyer, and I'm assuming that you're accredited. You've been to the bar, and they like you.
Yes, I'm licensed here.
So he's an actual licensed lawyer that's telling you the same thing that I've been telling you for 7 years. When the Pact Act first came out, there was a bunch of rumors that everybody needed to go and sign up for the registry, for the Pact Act registry. Well, I've done some research. According to the VA, there is no official registry for the Pact Act.
No, it's for the individual. So there is a registry for like the burn pit. There was a burn pit registry, and you get on that. That came about way before the Pact Act actually did. And that's what the VA tracks for its statistics. And they do call you in and do a interview or a initial eval, if you will. And I will say, in my recent disability decision, my phone interview was referenced as proof of my disability, like the VA used that. So definitely do that. But for the Pact Act, the only thing I think you could say...
Look over here. Otherwise, they're just seeing the side of your head.
So the Pact Act, for the only thing with that is they were saying to go ahead and file your intent to file. Because the sooner you did that is when if you qualified for compensation, that's when you would, your back pay would go back to.
Let me interrupt you here for a second. If you did not know, intent to file is not filing for disability. That's you telling the VA that you intend to submit a claim. And this is important because of what Brandon just said, back pay. If you intend to file, and you do file, and you are awarded compensation by a service-connected disability, they start paying you from the date that you intended to file, not the date that they made the decision. Now, I did this.
But it only lasts 12 months.
It only lasts 12 months.
You have to do it within 12 months.
When I did this, I did not know what I know now. And I had a nice gentleman who said, Doug, don't worry about it. I'm going to take care of you. And thank you for my sister who found him. He said, I'm going to take care of you because I know what to do here. And he did. He knew exactly. And when they denied it, and I went, I'm not going to fight this any longer, he talked me into continuing to fight. And boom, there you go. I'm finally at 50%. Then I had my surgery, and they knocked me down to 40%.
Because you got better?
Because I got better. I did get better. I'm no longer in a wheelchair. I did get better. I'm no longer in a wheelchair. But it's important that you do your intent to file. That gives you 12 months to gather your initial findings. And some of the things that you might do for this, including filing for the Pact Act, is you may have not seen the VA prior to this, but you've been seeing your doctor, and you've been seeing specialists. And your doctor and the specialist, they're going to write what's called nexus letters for you. That's a medical opinion that the condition that you have, and here's the proof of the condition, is more likely than not caused by your military service. It's called a nexus letter. But, you can walk into a doctor's office, he's not going to write that day. No. Your intent to file gives you 12 months to gather that initial evidence. Thank you. I'm sorry.
No, that's great. We're here to help out our veterans, right? That's why I'm doing this, is veterans helping veterans. But I'm glad you said nexus, because even though you have a nexus under the VA umbrella, in a court of law, even though the government has accepted liability under the Camp Lejeune Justice Act, we're still required to prove that nexus, or what we call it in the court of law is causation. We still have to connect the condition to the exposure. And that's where having a law firm is, I would say, almost mandatory under the Camp Lejeune Justice Act. And the cool thing about going with us is we already have a military advisory board set up, a medical advisory board set up, a local counsel in North Carolina to file and handle all these claims locally. But that's why it costs money, and you need an attorney under the Camp Lejeune Justice Act, because we legally have to establish and prove that causation. Now, the good thing is which I've never seen in a civilian court of law, they have adopted the VA standard, which is more likely than not, which is lower than 50%. Yep. That's lower than any burden you have ever in civilian court have to prove.
It's not a percent. It's just more likely or not. And guys, gals, Marines, I want you to understand more likely than not, as the VA sees this. If the VA can't come back and show definitively, this is for your compensation, nothing about medical, this is just for your compensation, disability compensation. If the VA can't prove definitively that your condition is not caused by military service, if they say, well, your ulcer has nothing to do with your military service, and they can prove that, then it's a win for them. But they have to definitively prove it. All that you need to prove is that it's more likely than not this condition was caused or is a secondary condition to something else caused by. And there's a law, and I don't remember what the law is. Maybe you know. But there is a law that says, when in doubt, basically it says this, when in doubt, it must be found to the benefit of the veteran. So the VA can't prove that your condition isn't, they cannot prove that the condition isn't caused by military service. But there is doubt of how you got the condition that you got. There's a law that says in that particular arena, it must be found for the benefit of the veteran. And I don't remember the law off the top of my head, but guys, if you send me a text or an email, I will find it and bring it out here at the next meeting. I want to switch from Camp Lejeune to the Pact Act.
Okay.
Now, Camp Lejeune was very specific, and for the most part, it covers Marines or support personnel attached to Marines, to Camp Lejeune, whatnot. The Pact Act covers the rest of us.
Everybody. And Marines.
I'm sorry?
And the Marines. So,
And the Marines, that's right.
Yeah, it's all service members.
The Pact Act is, I want to call it burn pit on steroids. Since we're familiar with burn pit, you register, you've gotten asthma from it or whatnot, and yes, you can prove that you were there at this time during the burn pits, and we'll treat you for asthma. The Pact Act is above and beyond that, where within the burn pit, you have to prove that you've gotten this condition from your exposure. That's what burn pit is. Pact Act says if you have one of these conditions and you were in the theater of operation during the time that this stuff was going on, you have the condition because of your military service. That's huge. That's huge. You were in the sandbox?
For sure.
Where were you at?
I was in Iraq.
So you were between Iraq and a hard spot? Those of us that were over there during the Gulf Wars, we understand that we didn't have a choice of what we were breathing in. And I was an NBC instead when I was over there.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, so my guys were in Mop 4 all the time, or at least masked because it was nasty.
For
it was
sure.
nasty. If you've come home, you're out, you're doing your daily business, you're doing what you're supposed to do, and wham! Cancer comes and smacks you on the side of your head. The Pact Act says, well, you have this type of cancer. We presume that it was caused because you were in the theater of operation between this day and this day. And because we presume that you have this condition because of your military service, we're going to do two things for you. We're going to do two things for you. First, the VA is going to treat your condition. They're going to cure you. And the second is they're going to give you some compensation for that. But just like everything else in life, you can't get it unless you ask for it. Boys and girls, this is not charity. This is not a handout that the government's... I got 1 minute? Man, that goes so fast. This is not a charity that the government's giving you. This is, we broke you, we're going to fix you.
And you're not taking away from another veteran. Actually, on the contrary, the more individuals that we have signed up for the VA and the VA disability, the larger the budget grows.
That is absolutely true. Now, I only have 1 minute, so I'm going to go over. I'm going to end this show the way that I do every time I have it, by thanking you, my loyal listeners, and for playing for you the theme song, the Warrior Song. And as we listen to this song, we want to think about our brothers and sisters standing in harm's way to protect our liberties and our freedoms. If you are wearing the uniform, I want to say to you, thank you. I want to say to you, I'm proud of you. And until next month, stay safe and stay vigilant.